Hi there, DW Berman. I'm going to do another LightWave video today. This week I was going to look at this problem that Starbase 1 is having, and he wants to redden the light hits at a shallow angle, so it looks like, you can tell where the sunset is hitting on a planet. There are some suggestions in the thread. I thought I would try another technique, and it's not entirely successful, but it, I think, shows a way you can experiment with things and maybe show you some new tools that you haven't seen. So here's my scene. It's a ball, a sphere, with a light in the scene and a camera, and that's all there is to it, really. I turn VPR on, and you can see I have a planet-like look with a red band near the edge there of the light. I can never remember if that's the terminus or terminal or termination, something. Anyway, if I edit the nodes, you can see my node layout. I have a terrain 3D texture here, and you notice that these spheres aren't drawing completely. If I turn VPR off, I can update, and you'll see the entire spheres. Okay. This 3D procedural texture here just controls the look of the land and stuff. So I have this going into a gradient here, which gives us our colors of our oceans and beaches and stuff. And I also have that plugged into this other gradient. You can ignore the green. That should probably just be grayish anyway. This is just our this controls our specularity. So yeah, you can pretty much ignore these nodes altogether, and we're focusing on these over here. Our Lambert shader is LightWave's basic shader. So let me just kind of slide this over here, and maybe, there we go. So if I turn off my nodes, you'll see I just have a standard gray ball with the light falling off to the side. I can get the same effect by just plugging this Lambert shader into the diffuse shading, which overwrites everything except specular and some other things. So, because there's a specular shading down here. So, yeah, it's basically I'm just using this to base the gradient on. You can see that down here. Normally, it would look like this, right? It's kind of almost what we had. But you can see this is basically adjusting the shading on the where the light falls on the object. So it's the gradient is on the shading of the object. If it was a more complicated object than a sphere, you might get a better sense of what's going on. But you can see even with this, I'm sharpening from one end to the other of this one little band. So this is our area that I want to get reddened. So let me unplug that. Let me unplug the luminosity. So I have this plugged into the gradient here, and this gradient is a color gradient, and I have the blending set to additive. I could set it to subtractive or green, and or any of these other ones, but really the ones that probably gets us closest to what we want is either going to be additive or screen, because that yeah. And if I change this color, brighten it up, you can see one of the problems with this technique is that we don't get light beyond this black point, where the light goes completely into shadow. We don't, or the object goes completely into shadow. We don't have light back there. Also, this looks pretty solid. It looks like a band of color rather than an atmospheric effect. If I change my start on my node, I can, kind of push this back a little bit. But it might work in this case. How about that? If I do this with a luminosity channel, it'll light up the backside of the planet, and I don't want to light up the backside of the planet, so we'll leave this like this. I'll just turn this down so it's not so bad. So that might work. I don't know. If I plug, like I said, if I plug the luminosity in, you can see this also is the same technique to add the color, only it brightens it up so we can see it better. And this is purely optional. Let me do this just so you can see what I was talking about and that I wasn't crazy. Yeah, there we go. Now we can see the backside of the planet. So you might want that for an effect. I don't know. But in the meantime, let's just roll the light around a bit so we can see what that looks like. So you might not even want to lighten it at the edge, so this whole luminosity node might be completely irrelevant. So there you go. That's one possibility for getting our light there. But like I said, it looks kind of solid and looks more like smog than actually lighting up the color. So I had another idea, and that was to use a color tool. And you can use the color tool is over here under the tools menu, and this gives us our hue, saturation, and brightness, and we can adjust the color of an incoming image based on this. So let me come back over here to our color node. I'll plug my color node into that, and there we go. I have a color tool plugged in now. If I change this to, say, 1 degree, you won't see much of a difference. If I change it to 50 degrees, you'll see my colors go all out of whack. So I was thinking, hey, well, maybe I can use this instead of overlaying the color. I could just tweak the color that's already there. Of course, I want to do that with a band, and hey, I happen to have a band right here, a band of color just in that area we want. So what if I plug that into the hue? And hey, look at that, we get a purple band right there on the edge. Of course, purple isn't quite what we want. We want red or red-orange or something like that. So, and we might be getting purple, but our ocean is blue, and if you add red to blue, we get purple. So I don't know how useful this will be either. But it gives us something interesting, and there's an interesting trick I'll show you with this as well. This only goes up to 255, so basically 1, and since the color tool here is expecting a degree, it's, this goes 0 to 360 and then beyond. This color, the white doesn't go up that high, so I figured, I'll add a multiply node to that. So that way I can push this white beyond 100 or beyond 1 or whatever. I don't know. You know the numbers. So I added this multiply in here, and I set it to 2. And you can see there's our normal 1. If I add 2, you can see it gets red in the middle here. If I push it beyond 2, say 3, we start to see yellow. But it's still, the outer edge of it is still staying that the normal default color. So if we really crank this up, we start seeing these interference bands, which you might want to use for something because it's kind of cool looking, and you could customize it somewhat. So based on this gradient here, so I thought that was pretty nifty. Obviously we don't want to go that far, and this really doesn't work either because we're getting this fading through the color, so that might be natural, I don't know. But it's far too pronounced, so I figured, hey, I'll add a mixer node. So I plugged the standard base color, no, not that one, this one, the one without the color band in it, and I plugged the output of the color tool into that. So now I have the color, the regular color over the, or rather I have the color tool version over the regular color, and I need to change this from lighten to 100. So there we go. Now I have the foreground color, which is our color tool, at 100% over top of the normal one, but if I change this to 0, you'll see our normal one. So maybe somewhere in between these two we'll get a mix of color that we like. Again, like I said before, it's kind of looking purple, so I don't know if that's terribly useful either. Although we might be able to use our other gradient with the same method to just kind of tone that down a bit. So there's a few options on adding a color band on the edge of a planet, and also just kind of a look into how I kind of experimented a little bit to come up with different looks, and I thought there were some interesting little techniques that could be adapted for something else. Oh, and just for fun, let me add a new light in here. I'll just clone the light that's there. Oops. That wasn't the right keyboard shortcut at all. Clone it. Fine, I'll use the menu. Oh, I mean, my screen capture software might be interfering with the keyboard shortcuts. Let me just add another distant light. And rotate that around. So you see we get some weird effects with having more than one light in the scene. Again, you might want some weird effects, so this might be right up your alley, right what you're looking for. So, yep. Planet of Doom. Whatever. So, yeah. So, that was just this week's experiment in LightWave trickery and fun in nodes, and yeah, lots of cool stuff you can do. Check us out at liberty3d.com. We have lots of plugins and tutorials for you to look at. Yeah, this month we're having a sale because it's around Christmas time. And also, if you go over to my page itself, Dana's Videos, you'll see my tutorials that I have for sale that are full length and nicely edited, and they cost a little bit of money, but I tried to keep the cost down low. So yeah, subscribe to this channel so you'll get to see whenever I post some interesting techniques or tricks or whatever. Maybe they won't even be interesting, but you'll get to see them anyway. So you'll know about them if you subscribe to my channel.